If you are a monkey, and you have 100 bananas in front of you, and for each banana you choose, you have to discard the previous banana. And you have to choose the best banana out of these 100 bananas. How should you choose? Let's make the question a little more realistic. Let's say you are looking for a house to rent online, and there are 100 houses on the list. If you pass, the house you pass will be rented by someone else. How should you choose the house you like best? Let's flesh out the problem a bit more. Suppose you are attending a large dating party and you have to choose a preferred partner among 100 people of the opposite sex. For everyone you pass up, the one you pass up will be picked by someone else. What should you do to choose your favorite partner of the opposite sex? These questions are faced with a choice problem. Should I or should I not give up on the fact that I am choosing the answer now when I can only choose one? And what should I do if the next one is even worse? I wonder if you have noticed when you enter the community, as if the previous set of school learned that hard work will be successful theory in the modern society does not apply. You find that those who are not as good as you in school, they graduated a few years later, then you may be better than you. In the unit there are a lot of coworkers not as good as your ability, not as good as you, family conditions are also not as good as you. But after a few years, they seem to be living a much better life than you. And you still every day in the original unit 996, but obviously you work harder than them. Why is it so? I don't know from when to start. The word volume is more and more popular. After all, nowadays the young people are really too volume. Think about when I used to work in Beijing, around almost no one is not hard, which makes me every day very stressful. Because I always think I have to stop, learn a little bit less, I will be colleagues beyond. So that period of time they are very anxious, want to play a game after work, cannot be quiet. And even lead to my game ashes players that period of time, a little bit of electronic impotence every day. After work to open the PS4 to browse through the list of games. Do not know what to play on the shutdown. I believe that we all have a similar experience. That time I began to try to make themselves very busy. I was examined a variety of certificates. I remember that there is a PMP, there is what the NPDP, the certificate began to self-study Python, self-study PHP. In the eyes of outsiders seems to be quite hard work. But these things, but are they really useful? It may be useful for some people, but when I look back now, at least for me at that time, it wasn't that useful. Because I didn't intend to be in this industry for a long time, especially in the technical field. I was actually just caught in a kind of effort trap, because only in this way can I feel my own efforts, I can comfort myself. There is no credit but also hard work, but in fact I did all useless, no goal of effort, no plan to struggle are just in the show. In these years, the phenomenon of workplace involution is particularly serious. But if everyone is involution, then this so-called involution is meaningless. There is a word called theater effect, meaning that in a theater, everyone is watching the play, everyone has a seat, everyone can see the actors perform. Suddenly an audience stood up, he may be in order to see more clearly, so the surrounding people in order to see the performance. But also forced to stand up to see the play. Then finally the whole audience from sitting to watch the play to stand to watch the play, which is the final consequences of the involution. When everyone works hard at work, the only person who ultimately benefits is the boss. In fact, hard work is the biggest lie in this world. If hard work could lead to success, then farmers wouldn't suffer so much. Be sure not to believe that hard work can succeed these so-called chicken soup. Never be brainwashed by these things. The so-called hard work of many people is actually doing the same thing over and over again every day. You can imagine a donkey pulling a mill and you will know what is going on. Then if we do not work hard, we have other ways out. Of course there is. I used to read a popular paragraph on the internet. He said that in the journey to the West, the four masters and disciples formed a team to go to the West to get the scriptures. In which the Tang monk is the team's leadership core, is a great leader with a mission. Sun Wukong's strong martial arts is a demon catcher, is a good employee. Sand and Shang, although martial arts cannot, but along the way diligently, dirty work are doing their own, no credit also have hard work. The only pig Beiji ability than the Sun Wukong, and lazy and colorful, not moving to break up the group back to Gao Laozhuang, such an employee, he eventually also became a Buddha. Only because he followed the right team. I was in 2017 or so, there was a good relationship with my friend. He told me that he was doing TikTok short video. He said that this industry will burst into flames in the future. I was very disdainful. I think that this kind of thing is very low. Because at that time the TikTok is really quite low, so I didn't take his words seriously. Later, my friend made money on TikTok, and I regretted very much why I didn't listen to him at first. Even if I knew a little more about it, I wouldn't have missed the opportunity to make money. Then I made a wrong choice, which led me to take a detour for many years. See here, we all understand what I'm going to say. In fact, what I want to say is that the choice is far greater than the effort. Obviously before are the same starting line. But now you are not as good as the people around you. Not that you do not have his efforts, but others have made more than you good much more choice. Standing on the wind mouth pig can fly up. You want to make $1 million a year, you have to do those things that can make $1 million a year. Have you ever heard of anyone making $1 million a year serving dishes in a restaurant? Have you ever heard of anyone making $1 million from a part-time job? Of course there are some, but they are too few. Do you really think it's that simple? What I'm about to say is what really works. Do you really think that successful people make it to the top of the heap simply because they made the right choice? I'd like to ask, when a person is really faced with a choice in life, who wouldn't want to choose the right one? Taking my friend who did the jitterbug above as an example, do you really think that it is only because of my wrong choice that I lost the opportunity to make money? In fact, with my cognitive level at that time, I could not choose to do with that friend, even if I chose to do with him with my level at that time. I'm not sure that I can make money on the entry, the probability that I will still be a nose. A lot of people are constantly reviewing their past to try and justify the saying that choice is better than effort. You may think, if I chose a different profession, my salary has doubled. If I bought a house in so-and-so city, I cannot work every day, rely on rent to make money. If I chose someone to get married, I can now enjoy every day. But have you ever thought that many times you actually have no choice? Or let me put it another way, your level of perception only forces you to choose that wrong answer. Just like me above, those social elites are elites not because they made a certain choice right, but because they made many choices right. Make the right choice and you may rely on luck, but you want to make the right choice at every fork in the road of your life. It's no longer luck, it's your perception. And what is cognition? Is it the books you read? It is the road you have traveled. It is the people you have made friends with. And it is these things together that make up your cognition. Online, often people will say, so-and-so Netroots is relying on the current developed media fire up. Their own strength is not at all, purely ate the dividends of the times. But I would like to say that you said that the Netroots, even if not in this era of developed self-media, he will be just as successful just because of the dividend. He may be seen by more people. But he can continue to pop the essence of his own strong strength as a support. Otherwise, if he does not have the strength, even if one day suddenly overnight burst of fire, he is also not lasting. Therefore, I hope that we will not complain about our so-called wrong choices in the past, but to improve our overall strength and cognitive ability from now on. I hope you can understand a sentence. The life you are now living is your past choice decision. And the choice you made in the past is based on your cognitive level at that time can make the best choice. Seeing this, surely many partners have questions. Then how should we make the right choice? I also said earlier, people face a lot of choices in life. To ensure that each can choose the right is very difficult. But we can ensure that we make more correct choices, which requires you to have a very high level of cognition, which is needed in our long time of work and study in the slow accumulation of summarized. However, alone on the matter of making choices, there are some specific methods. So the following content, I will share with you some specific methods to tell you how to do when faced with a choice. Here is a prerequisite. We do any choice when we choose the goal rather than the interests. Especially when you are doing what the major choices in life, there must be a major premise. Ask yourself, well, what do you really want to do in this life? The first principle of making choices I'm going to talk about is to be long-termist. For example, a few months ago, a shares did not have a period of soaring. At that time, there are many people follow the trend to buy. The results can be imagined. In fact, the essence is that these people are only looking at the immediate interests. But if you take the long view, you based on the understanding of a certain stock, as well as the long-term development of this brand, then I believe that your stock market is able to make money on. Of course, in advance to clarify, I do not study the stock myself. I am not letting everyone go to buy stocks. Because the stock, this thing is really deep water, I myself do not understand the industry. I just use this example to let you better understand what is meant by long-termism. Another example, this is my own side of the example, familiar with my people know, I used to do personal IP incubation well. I have taken two students, let's call them student A and student B well. These two students have a very good voice. And before the internet has done some dubbing part-time job, and student A, the University of Broadcasting, which in itself is his advantage. These two people found me. I based on the voice of the students and the two students, and the two students are very good, and the two students are very good. When these two people found me, I recommended them to do a reading personal IP according to their advantages. But this person, he did things more impatient. He is more important to the immediate interests. He did his own account the first month. Because there is no traffic, naturally, there is no money, well, he himself has some faltering. But B, this person, the beginning of the personal IP account focused on doing their own reading. that after about 2 years or so, this person's account has been done up. He is now in the jittery sound, has more than 100,000 fans, although it is not a lot. But he reads live every night, the audience has a lot of reward for him, and he launched his own reading course. With students, so 2 years of time, their own. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to do this, but I'm sure you're going to be able to do it. This person, and later to find me that he tossed a lot of projects in the past 2 years, did not earn any money. Regret that I did not listen to his advice. After listening to the above 2 examples, I believe we will be able to understand what is called long-termism. The second point is based on a psychological law called the 37% principle, also known as optimal stopping theory. Remember those scenes at the beginning of the video? If you are faced with this kind of scenario where you need to make a quick decision, you need to use this law, the 37% rule. This law means that if you want to choose the most preferred partner among 100 partners, you can use 37% of the number of people as a node. That is, first observe the first 37 partners, pick out one partner among these 37 partners that you think is the best partner, but do not choose him. Using this partner as a benchmark, observe the next 63 partners one by one and compare them with the one you picked, and choose this one as soon as it is better than 37% of this figure is based on the mathematician Euler in the book, The Beauty of the Algorithm, through experiments to reach a conclusion. The specific how to calculate, interested viewers can go to learn about it. In fact, we only need to remember the conclusion is good. Of course, this law is a certain limitation. It only applies to those who do not have enough time to weigh the consideration, must immediately make a decision on the scene. The last point is that whenever you are faced with a major decision, follow the following principles to do the thinking. First, what are the pros and cons of this choice? Second, are the benefits of this choice for you long-term? Third, what are the risks associated with the disadvantages of the choice, and can you avoid or bear the risks? I'm going to give you my own example here, although this example does not represent everyone, but I mainly want to share with you the process of my own choice. I resigned from my job to start my own business around 2021. Familiar with my audience friends know that I used to be a programmer. I resigned from my job and faced 2 choices. The first one is to continue to look for a company to work, and the second is to start their own business. Of course, I have to analyze what long-term impact these 2 paths will have on my future. Entrepreneurship is a very sensitive thing. Definitely not something I thought of in a flash. Because I came out to start my own business in 2014 or so, and even if I went back to work later, the idea of starting my own business has never disappeared from my mind. When I was working in those years, I did a lot of side jobs and part-time work after work, and made some small money. So I have some experience in this aspect of entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship has long-term benefits. After all, I'm not the kind of character that likes to be constrained, and working for the rest of my life is quite painful for me. I have considered the pros and cons of starting my own business, and it will bring me long-term benefits. In terms of cons and risks, the biggest risk for me is that I will have very little or no income at the beginning. Which I calculated, based on my actual spending, would only last 2 years at the most because I still had to pay the mortgage at that time. But fortunately, I didn't get married or get into a relationship, so I had to confirm the direction in a year and a half and continue to do it. And I left myself a lot of money. I left myself a buffer of half a year. If I hadn't found the right direction after a year and a half, I might have to think about going back to work again. But after all, I was getting older and it wasn't particularly easy to find another job, so I left a buffer of half a year. In fact, when I made the decision to start my own business, I have no intention of turning back. But I still leave myself a way out, even if it is the worst-case scenario, even if I still have to go back to work. I do not intend to continue to eat this bowl of rice in the internet, but to engage in the work related to my entrepreneurial activities, so that it will be much easier to find a job, the risk I can take on my own. I had a premonition that the internet industry was going downhill and the dividend period was gone. So I made the first choice to quit my job and start my own business. Next, I will face the second choice, which is about the choice of my business project. At that time, there are 3 ways to choose. The first way is that I use these years to work to save money to open a physical store. Because before about 2014 is to open their own store. But this road was directly by me. Because at that time, just caught up with the epidemic has just ended, the physical industry has not yet fully recovered. Coupled with the cost of opening a store is very large. The slightest carelessness will be all the losses. Then the second road is to do some part-time work in the internet, such as idle fish, second-hand sources of information such as poor business. The third path is to choose self-publishing. The advantage of these 2 paths is that it costs nothing and is an asset-light business. If it fails, what I lose is just time. If I choose the former, do some poor information business, I can quickly make because I have done these things before. These businesses are able to briefly relieve the status quo of my lack of income. But these businesses in the long run is not much. It's not a very risky path, but the top line is not high, whereas if I choose to do self-publishing, I'll have to learn from scratch, which isn't impossible if you're self-taught, but it could be a huge waste of time. So what if I choose to pay to learn? But there are also many teachers on the internet to teach self-media. Mixed, just entered the profession, I do not know anything. It is likely to be cut. But in the long run, do personal IP, learn self-media operation skills. These are things that can be done in the long run and will never go out of fashion. After all, in today's self-media era, no matter what the industry is, it is possible to stand out in the industry by operating your own account, which is also a big trend. And then the risk of this road is that I am not familiar with this field. Need to spend a lot of time. In the middle may also be a lot of harvesting, but in the end, a comprehensive measure of this risk I can afford, so after careful consideration, I decided to choose the third. Although the middle of a lot of detours, but also be harvested. But the final fact also proved that my choice is correct. I am in this road to earn the first bucket of gold in the true sense of the word. And the above is my own choice of some of the experience. I hope to be able to give you some reference. The last thing I want to say is that life is like a journey. Always face a variety of choices in the fork in the road. Sometimes we hesitate, worrying that a thought will miss a better view. Sometimes we move forward decisively, but feel uneasy when we look back. If you read what I said earlier and still don't know how to choose, then choose to do what you like. Often this thing is your best choice, but no matter what you choose, accept it openly and walk on with a firm. Don't regret for the past decision, but cherish the present moment and give meaning to your choices with your actions. Then the above is all the content of today's video. If you think the content of the video is helpful to you, I hope you can click a free trifecta to encourage me. Your support is the power of my continuous update.